Are you ready? We're ready. Hello and welcome to the first ever The Good, the Bad and the What the Fucks for the legendary Sylvester Stallone. I don't know why I'm doing Sylvester Stallone. Now I'm going to do two I want to do two films together here. I've literally just done an unboxing for this VHS and I've just whacked Hire in the face with the actual packaging, so obviously the cards. So you're not doing very well, are you? So yeah, Money Train, white box VHS. That's just another random thing. Now, doing Sylvester Stallone, The Good, the Bad and the What the Fucks is totally unplanned. It's been on the cards for a while. There's been a couple on the collection. I say collection because there's one called The Collection or The Collector. It's something like that. I've never seen it. I picked up Shade, another film I've never seen. Get Carter, the remake. So I've been picking up a few random Stallones, and Stallone's a really good example of The Good, the Bad and the What the Fucks. You know, he's a fantastic writer. And you cannot knock him for his mind in movies. He's created some of the most iconic characters in movie history. A lot of people, he does get a lot of great impersonations. Hey, this guy's just, he's the tits. He's absolutely the tits. Once upon a time had a signed Rocky poster. Anyway, off that rant. I've been doing the Bruce Willis, and at the time I didn't realise Bruce Willis has officially came out now and said he's got a few problems and he's basically making enough money just to have a happy life, £1 million a day kind of thing, and like all the way through that he's a paycheck Willis. And like Bruce Willis is an example of this, where these are iconic actors, and they've hit big, and then, you know what I mean, they've been the benchmark, and then all of a sudden, whoop, there's some blips. Not every actor's like hit the skies. But when you talk about Stallone, personally, when you want to talk about the first entry of Stallone anyway, I want to talk about First Blood. It's not called Rambo, it's called First Blood. First Blood to me was one of those films taped on VHS, Advert City, and I loved the story. And as I grew older, I used to have the book. Same person's got that. You read the book and you realise that in the book Rambo is an absolute maniac. They can't control him, and there's a massive like sub story about the sheriff and him have an argument about what war was what war and what war was better. And you know, basically he is treated wrong, but he's also like a raging lunatic, and at the end he's killed. And when you listen to the commentary on First Blood from the audio commentary of the writer, and then separately Stallone, there's a lot of really good stories. But it's the repackaged versions where they've all got the army green, so it's not on every edition of First Blood. And it's very interesting to hear that, you know, it passed through so many people in Hollywood before it ended on Stallone. And Stallone was just burnt out from Rocky III at the time. He was in one of the best shapes of his life, but he didn't want to fucking do the movie. And he came in and he wanted to write it. And of course the writer's kind of like, well, it was 10 years after the book was done, First Blood. And you know, to me personally, I love the score. I've got the score on vinyl. It's a score that really should have got a like resurgence, because the one I've got is like the original like shock thing. I was meant to bring down the VHS, the pre-cert, which is sitting upstairs, and I've got a Rambo action figure somewhere. But no, I'm sitting down and I'm absolutely winging this. If I'm going to start, before I get to the next one, I want to talk about First Blood. I love it. I remember seeing it as a kid, loving it. I'm not too fond of 2 and 3. 4 absolutely blew my head off at the cinema, and 5 also blew my head off. And I think it's great to see it come full circle. But for the first movie, for little as Stallone does it, the movie just wants you. I mean, for me personally, living so close to the woods and being able to go out in these woods as a kid as well, it was just like you felt like you were Rambo. My cousins Roger and Simon used to have a thing called the Rambo Run, running around the woods and all this kinds of stuff. So it was tape traded around a lot. But I remember seeing it, and like I love the story, and I love like that kind of like town. There's a lot of towns like that in New Zealand, and there was something about me, like, you know, that this bottom of the mountain, you know, the bottom of the mountain town you go in, and like, you know, Twin Peaks kind of feel, Dante's Peak kind of feel. And yeah, every time I put it on, I just absolutely love it. I'm not a fan of the red font and white font at the start. But again, I think the long road, the music works really, really well. And when it just builds up, and you know what I mean, like he gets into the woods, they go after him, the music's intense. I mean, only one guy dies in the first one, and Rambo doesn't really kill him. It's not like the more recent ones where it's an absolute maniac bloodbath. And I think all the actors really like corn in on it. Rambo originally did die in the edit. Sorry. I'm talking that crocodile. Anyway, so yeah. Again though, it's it's great effects. Like practical effects back in the day. It screams so well of. Sorry, the dogs just came back down now. I mean, it screams so well of just like putting it on, going right, yeah, cool. It's a film that can't be remade. Please don't knock it. I mean, there has been some controversies when they brought out the video game. Like, Christ, what was going on there? So yeah, First Blood needed to be the first entry into the Sylvester Stallone, The Good, The Bad, The What The Fucks, because to me, that is one of the best films he's did. So iconic, and for one movie that was just meant to be right, he's dead at the end, to now last maybe 30, 40 years now, and a lot of people go, oh, there'll be another one. I think he's definitely dead at the end of Rambo Last Blood. I mean, calling it Last Blood was mint as well. The score for that is mint as well. But I think he just dies happy on his seat. Just leave him there. He's done enough. Will you give me that crocodile? But yeah. So, give me... No. Right, anyway. So, number 2 in The Good, The Bad, and The What The Fucks is The Suicide Squad. Now, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat here and do 3. And then I've only got 7 films to catch up with. Because Guardians of the Galaxy 2... Sylvester Stallone popped up, and everyone was like, whoa, Sylvester Stallone just popped up in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and he's in there, and Vin Rames is in there as well, and it was really cool. Didn't see it coming. Obviously Kurt Russell's in there as well, and reunite Stallone from Tango and Cash. Rambo's a pussy. I'm the mirror. So the connection with James Gunn is there, and Michael Rooker, who was also in Cliffhanger with Stallone, had been in stuff like Sliver with James Gunn. So, Stallone was in there, and I think James Gunn's definitely made some really good pals in Hollywood, because Stallone's not an idiot. He will take a paycheck this day and age. Just look at Escape Plan 2 and 3. We're not getting there yet with them, but if you look at them and go, what happened there? And there's another one called Backtrace. If I have to watch Backtrace again, mind, for This Good, The Bad, and What The Fucks, I'll cry, because I was just like, dude. But back to Guardians of the Galaxy. Turns up, and it's great. You know what I mean? It's seeing Stallone in the Marvel Universe is great, and it was right, cool, because all these iconic actors, from bringing them into the Marvel Universe, it's always cool. I think Stallone just caught everyone off guard. So Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was another awesome film for that. And where I was going there was Suicide Squad, so I'll do this really quick. Suicide Squad, James Gunn, jump ship, DC. I think this film... I watched Suicide Squad, then Birds of Prey, then this, and I thought Birds of Prey was the funnier one out of all 3. I think this just tried to be Guardians of the Galaxy in the DC universe. It's great that the actors came back, everyone except for Will Smith, who was replaced by Idris Elba, but then they went, well, no, don't make him that, even though Christian Slater played him in the cartoon. They swapped that around. And, it was good for that. I think it was enjoyable, but again, it just felt all over the place. There was some funny bits in it. It's great to see his not on my end, but having Stallone come along as King Shark and doing the whole Vin Diesel with Groot and made a really funny character. Obviously, Killer Croc was not brought back. Everyone else met the demise except for Harley Quinn. But the film was just pretty wild. DC just don't do anything there's no long-term plan with DC. It's right, catch up with Marvel as fast as we can. It's whoa, just relax, just fucking relax with a lot of stuff. But if you try the multiverse of DC, it's messy. They're really dark, and I think one of the best things about DC is having that extra edge. All the F-bombs and all that kind of humour kind of needs it in there, but obviously they're still trying to cater to a younger generation. Don't try it. You've got that upper hand. Marvel, obviously went with Deadpool. So there is that audience, isn't there? Yeah, you like them, don't you? But I think when Stallone, lending his voice to it and that, and these cameos, the smart cameos, and you can kind of see him being a guiding light on the set as well, because if you've got Sylvester Stallone, you're and you're struggling, he's always come across in comedies well, what about, and he never seems to step on anyone's toes. He's just go up and what do you think of this shot? And he collaborates, and one of the things I've noticed about Stallone, especially a lot of things I follow about him, is he is generally trying to pass on his knowledge into a newer generation for filmmakers, and that is fucking awesome. So doing this voice work, which would be in a couple of days, he probably did his voice work for King Shark while he was letting his voice for Mortal Kombat 11, you know what I mean? Because Rambo's just everywhere, he's fucking in all kinds of games and stuff, and oh man, he's just very smart guy, very funny on social media, not as funny as Arnold Schwarzenegger with his donkeys in his house, but again, he's an Academy Award winning writer. I think is an underrated actor by far, and a brilliant filmmaker, you know what I mean? We haven't even touched on him directing stuff. I've literally just went bang, First Blood, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, because it links up the connection to Suicide Squad, which I don't think any of the Suicide Squad. So I'm back here for the good, the bad, and the WTFs for Sylvester Stallone. And the other night the camera was running flat, so I was like, brilliant, well done, and it probably got cut off quite abruptly, I would imagined. But again, I class these as throwaway videos, but also just to express myself about movies. So I ended up watching First Blood that night twice with the audio commentary. Now on the Blu-ray, I've got the Steelbook, which hasn't found its way back into this room yet. The Blu-ray is just the flat-out film. It's the black version of the box set, which why bother bringing them all out individually? It just one collection's enough. And I watched the DVD, because the DVD has the audio commentary by the writer and Sylvester Stallone separate, and it's completely two different sides. They're making the film really, really interesting. And what I really took away from it as well is when Stallone grabs the sheet of rusted fibre when it's a proper on the spur moment, you know, cuts into it, starts wearing it. It's a one and only sheet. So like the prop department's just like, oh god, it's like improvised. Well, he would look for survival, and yes, he's right, but you know what I mean. It's like guarded. This bit of cloth that just randomly found that's been in the wilderness for years is now the most prized thing apart from Stallone himself. So it was a really good. If you've never heard the commentaries, it's really, really good and interesting. Now I'm just gonna have a look around because I was gonna do Demolition Man, but Demolition Man just so happens to be in the other room. Now we've got Lock Up and Cliffhanger. I'll probably revisit Cliffhanger. There's another Stallone box set here. Demolition Man's in there. Tango and Cash, Cobra. I don't want to wing them. Assassins as well. I can do Assassins because I watched it quite recently actually, and I'll do it quite quick. I remember Assassins mega heavily trailered back in the days of Warner Brothers VHSs, especially with the yellow font along the bottom. It's not going to be there. Robert Rath. And Antonio Banderas at the time was shit hot coming off the back end of Desperado, and just, you know what I mean, he really made a name for himself, especially you know, he's a very talented actor, but he got his little he's an action star, but I think what people don't realise how dramatic he can be, and his multilingual language is also another massive plus point about him, and he is maniacal in this. So it's at that time where, you know, you had the team ups of the 90s, and here comes Stallone and a new up and coming star, but someone on the Latino kind of Mexican side of it, you know, that Hispanic heritage. I will apologise, I'm not sure where Antonio Banderas is actually from. But I'm hoping it's down them lines. And you know, Richard Donner, the director of The Goonies, director of Lethal Weapon, but obviously really stretches and tones it back, you know, and Julianne Moore, which I'm not the biggest fan. There's an amazing stunt there's some amazing stunts all the way for the movie, especially when it goes flying out the back of the window, in just the assassination style. It's a film that we definitely looked at before we did the tournament as well, for just some of the kill shots and the build up and the suspense. It's not been released individually on Blu-ray. It comes out in the Stallone box set. I think the Specialist is the only way you can get the Specialist in there as well. Another very heavily advertised Warner Brothers, because it didn't have to be a male. Teaming Stallone with Sharon Stone was another teaming up. It's one of them. It doesn't have to be male and male. You know, it's the team up era. You know, and I think every actor, they always try to buddy them up into some, you know, double box office. But yeah, I remember Assassins being really long as a kid. If I have a look, you might even see it behind us, because I've definitely got it on VHS somewhere around. But yeah, I remember seeing it, and Stallone's rooting it for the bad guy, and it all comes back around, and all the pressure, and Stallone's playing the game, and the patient game, and waiting for the perfect shot, the money shot, the ultimate like thrill shot, the actual, like, you know what I mean, the marksmanship. And there's a lot of that in it. So like Stallone come off the back end of whack bang wallop action movies. You know, again, at the time he was doing Judge Dredd. Demolition Man wasn't too far away from this, but he was also doing a bit of a boo-boos with like Oscar and stuff like that. It had been all run around this time. But Richard Donner, Antonio Banderas, Julianne Moore is a good actress. I just sometimes, I don't know, I think I was scarred too much of her off Lost World. I just, yeah. But again, it's like, it is quite suspenseful. And as well, it's a rivalry, but also it's the professionalism of it as well. I think it's not like, oh, he's the good guy, he's the bad guy. It's all about the contract. And if you haven't seen it, I'm gonna flat out spoil it. The end where they kind of like, you know, like team up on, like, you know, almost team up, and you know, who's doing it, who's twisting the story, and then it's got the old like, where you been, Robert? Like the early days of internet and hired hitmen, you know what I mean? So the internet was creeping into that as well. So that's been the 4, hasn't it? So it's been First Blood, which I have now watched again. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Suicide Squad, which I've just brought up to file, which will be somewhere behind us. And just looking at the pile I've got there, there's Get Carter, Shade, Avenging Angelo. So obviously I've been keeping an eye. I don't really want to watch Backtrace again, but I might have to. But I'm not trying to rush them. Again, I think with Stallone, I've revisited his films all the time. He's definitely a go-to guy, but he has done some good. He's done some mint films. He's done some films that are absolutely mint. Demolition Man would be one of my favourite films he's done. But he's done some bad, and he's definitely done some what the fuck movies, especially when you've got, there's it like Paradise Alley and Lords of the Flatbush, these films that have been lost for decades in the archive of film productions, now creeping their way out into Blu-ray, and you're like, is that Sylvester Stallone in a porno? And you're like, aye. So yeah, next part of the video.
Hello and welcome back to the good, the bad, and the what the fucks for Stallone. It's been ages. I know I started it, and I shit you not, I know First Blood was 1. But I really need to edit the video to realise what it was. And Guardians of the Galaxy was there. Suicide Squad, oh, it's coming back. It's been about a month. I've just watched Cliffhanger on doing my HorrorCon video, if you're watching these in any kind of consistency. HorrorCon. Cliffhanger's probably one I would have went, ooh, I should have went and got the Laserdisc, because the Laserdisc artwork is absolutely awesome. Be an outtake of that Laserdisc. Cliffhanger is one I could probably just sat down and talked about, and it's something I've watched quite recently. I did a podcast with It's Just a Podcast. It's got a really good, interesting commentary by Rennie Harlan and Sylvester Stallone, but it seems to be bitted together. I don't think it's a full-on like streaming one. It's a fucking awesome movie, and if you were going to do top 10 Stallone films, it would be in the top 10 of most people and be near the top. Director of Die Hard 2, also the director of Deep Blue Sea, and a very hidden gem is Mindhunters. Rennie Harlan is a brilliant filmmaker. And Cliffhanger, you know, back in the day, like the early 90s when it was heavily trailered on VHS, this is one of Stallone's big films. It's fucking brilliant. I mean, Daylight was meant to be some kind of spiritual sequel. The shots, the locations, the use of rear projections, and just old school camera techniques. Stallone being afraid of heights, but even the opening shot when it comes up, Cliffhanger, and he's like hanging, and just it visually stunning. I wouldn't have chose the variant of pink that went for the font at the start. It's like, really? But it's a hard 18 rated movie, but it creeps into a 15. I think it's told really well. Visually looks stunning. It's very isolated. But even the supporting cast, you've got the mum from Hook. She's a badass in it. You got John Lithrew, who's always come, maybe he's a comedian, even though he's done some creepy stuff. Leon from Cool Runnings. You've got Craig Fairbrass in there. You've got Jimmy Smits is in there. You've got the other kid from who gets bitten by the dog in the mask. Like, the people who go after Stallone are like top balls. Michael Rooker is in there. And just like the stunts, I mean, the hijacking in midair, And just like even the point of view when the guy's got the mask on, it's got his POV, and then just some of the camera angles with the fights, and like how brutal it wants to be. There's a lot of F-bombs, fuck this, fuck that, gorilla pressing into a fucking spike and stuff. It's fucking brutal. Music's very out there as well. It's a very unfit march. I'm surprised it hasn't been released on vinyl, to be honest with you. But I've sat there, I'm on it, and that's playing in the background. I've caught myself paying attention to it yet again, even though I've seen it so many fucking times. It is definitely one of Stallone's best movies. So yeah, well done on that. And I believe the next one's going to be Lockdown, because all I have to do is change the disc or lock up, lockdown, lock up, and lock up. You know, so yeah, I really need to. I know I definitely haven't done 10. So I think I can get away with watching Lockdown and Lock Up and getting back onto this one. So yeah, see you in the next part. Hello and welcome back. I've just literally watched Lock Up. It's such a random box set, this Stallone. 3 Stallone movies. First Blood. There's no Rambo. First Blood there. I just want to point that out. Cliffhanger and Lock Up. And what's really even more weirder, when you open it up there, it's like the disc from the Rambo box set. Which again, you don't get any of the extra features that you get on the. No, you do get the extra features on that. It's like the 4K and stuff. You don't get the extra features because the audio commentary, once again, is brilliant. But yeah, such a random box set. I don't really rate Lock Up. If you're going to talk about like that kind of era prison movies, Death Warrant to me, Van Damme. But like, it's weird, you know. It's like Stallone, and then you've got Sonny Lisbon, who's obviously in Predator, who has to have bodyguards to look after him. You've got the guy from Coming to America, Donald Sutherland, very menacing, and this is the Ward. Tom Sizemore's in there as well. Maybe there's a couple more faces you might recognise from iconic 80s movies, but like, it's almost like if they'd said like, this is what happened to John Rambo in between First Blood and First Blood Part 2, Rambo, or like, shit, Rocky fucking did a Wesley Snipes and got tax evasion. It might work, you know, because it's essentially Rocky in there, even at the end where it's got the photo montage and like Stan Bush or whoever it is, that era of singing music, in a power ballad to Hearts on Fire in prison there. It's just epically long, and you think, where the fuck's this going? And it's like, it's a prison movie then, it's not a prison movie, and it's just, I just don't rate it. I mean, Stallone fans, maybes, you know, I mean, his hair's just too nice all the way through it. It's not gritty enough. I mean, some of the sets and all that look alright, and I think Donald Sutherland is quite menacing in this, but it's kind of like, you know what's going here, especially when he walks out of prison, everyone's like high-fiving him and stuff. You're like, really? Let me go on. So no, I'm not going to rant on too much about Lockdown, Lock Up, whatever it is. I just thought I'll have a waffle now, as it's finished, and just uploading some footage and still working on my HorrorCon video. So yeah, Lock Up. Don't really rate it. Has been released on 4K. So has Cliffhanger, and so has First Blood on its own. So obviously owned by Studio Canal off the top of my head, or Optimism Home Entertainment within the UK. The box set: Sly versus Rambo. Like, really? Interview in Paris 2008. That's a nice special feature. But then Cliffhanger's absolutely packed with extra features, and there's a few behind the scenes. But yeah, it's the Rambo box set. Not the one for Lock Up. Wasn't one I grew up on as well for Stallone, so I just don't think it's very good. I think it's a bad one. So you're going to go the good, the bad, and the what the fuck. It's definitely a bad movie for me. Anyway, next video. Hello and welcome back to the good, the bad, and the what the fucks. And I have pre-edited the video up until this point. Had no idea. If you said how many films, I was going around the 5 mark, but there's actually 6. And if you asked us what them 6 films, I'll probably be like, would have totally forgot about Assassins. So so far it's been First Blood, got me notepad here, First Blood, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Suicide Squad, Assassins, Cliffhanger, and Lock Up, not Lockdown. So that takes us to 6. So last night it was my choice of films, and I'm allowed to pick films again. After I picked The Greasy Strangler, I got banned for a month from picking films, and I had to watch stuff like The Notebook and The Longest Ride and stuff like that. And I asked Britt like really what she wanted to watch last night, and she wanted a feel good movie. So I was just surfing Netflix and decided to type in Stallone, and I was thinking, right, maybe there's a couple of Stallone films I don't have on there, and Animal Crackers popped up. Now, Stallone has lent his voice to quite a few cartoons in the past, and it's been probably one of the first ones I can remember him being in. But I put on Animal Crackers, Netflix film, and I'm going to cheat here because I'm going to go straight into another film here as well, and you'll know why I've done it in a minute. But like Animal Crackers, we have to turn it off. Like, it's a 2-hour film for kids. There's a hamster on the cover. And Netflix is really bad for putting pictures of people on the covers that, like really false photos. The lost art of VHS is just gone. You know, why is Samuel L. Jackson on the front cover of RoboCop? You know what I mean? It's just pretty pants. But anyway, off that rant. I put it on, and within 10 minutes I was kind of lost what was going on. The family passed heritage down. I mean, Danny DeVito was in this. He's pretty much the narrator as well as one of the voices. The guy who recently just passed away, who plays the parrot, who's also in Problem Child, he plays the parrot in Aladdin. He's in there as a sidekick to Ian Magneto Gandalf. Yeah, my brain's gone. Aye, I'll come back to this in a minute. But yeah, there's just some really bad casting in this, I think. Sylvester Stallone's Bullet Man, I didn't even realise who Sylvester Stallone was until like I IMDb'd him. And at this point, Bullet Man had been on for a while, but like the animation like felt it was trying to go one way then the other. I've talked about this before in The Good, the Bad and the What the Fucks when I talked about Christian Slater when he did a film called Back to the Sea, when the animation seems to try to be old school, but then old school with a new school look, but then try to have new school elements. And I think this, like, they were going for like Arthur Christmas kind of animation, but then they had the big like characters all different proportions, but then they were trying to be realistic in some bits. Completely got lost with the origin story about the uncles and the passing down of the circus. The story's something to do about a circus and the evil uncle. So there's an uncle and an uncle, but then there's never the father of whoever the main characters become. And the people who have the fucking circus at the start aren't the parents of the two people we're now following with the blue hair. So it gets really like messy, like especially because it's a kids' film and it's a 2-hour film as well. If it was an hour and a half, we probably would have finished it. We were waiting for a takeaway, and we ordered the takeaway before the film started. And we watched 6 episodes of Friends. The takeaway took me 2.5 hours. So that's more interesting than the film. But it got messy. We didn't know what to think of it. We laughed at a couple of bits, but then it wasn't enough to engage us a lot. So it goes down as a bad film. Not the What the Fuck film, but a bad film. But borderline What the Fuck, I guess, because like, oh, which one's Stallone? Oh, that, and he gets his name. Do you know what I mean? So it was just... Again, it's a nice tick on the box there. You can't physically own it, so it's one of the ones where you're going to have to stream to watch it. As a collector of Stallone fan people, like this new era of like, you know, different back in the day trying to find the two Corey stuff like on VHS. But like, if you're a collector of like Schwarzenegger, Nicolas Cage, John Carpenter, these kind of like collect these films. Now, when it's just on streaming, it's like you kind of want it physically there to own, and like some films do territorially. Hey, come out in different countries, but like it's a perfect example of there's one that you have to stream to watch, and I was like, it's grim. Like, I mean, you don't really take notice of how long's left on a film by looking at a box, so that's another downfall of Netflix. But like, yeah, it was pretty poor. But yeah, that was Animal Crackers. So going straight into that, let's talk about Expendables, because I just recently watched Expendables for the Bruce Willis, and still at this point of recording this in the last day of May, I haven't released Bruce Willis's volumes 1 or 2. Number 1 should have clearly came out weeks ago, but proper good. There's so much stuff going on. I don't like sometimes videos to clash and stuff like that, so that's the main reason. But it's always good to have stuff just there to throw out whenever. I do look at these as throwaway videos. But Expendables was brought up in the Bruce Willis. Obviously, Bruce Willis did not return for the third one, but the first one, Stallone's directed a lot of movies, and a lot of people don't realise that Stallone directed like Saturday Night Fever 2, also known as Staying Alive. He seems very knowledgeable, knows what he wants, and obviously spent a lot of time recently doing Rocky 4. Now, I could really cheat, but why is the point of reviewing Rocky 4 and not obviously work your way through the Rockies throughout The Good, the Bad, But obviously, I seen Rocky at the Pictures last year. That still hasn't seen a physical release. That should have seen a physical release from far by now. But depends what MGM does with it. Expendables though, you know, Stallone had an absolute comeback, you know, directing Rambo and then directing Rocky Balboa, starring them, writing them, reliving these characters, and then just like a pipe dream, like early days at IMDb, and you're like, fuck off. At this point, Schwarzenegger hadn't done anything for a long time. I think Schwarzenegger's last appearance was like Rundown, when he walks past Dwayne Johnson and goes, "Have fun." I'm like, what a passing of a torch moment. Bruce Willis as well. I remember me and Jack going to the pictures to see Expendables, but like just the IMDb, and everyone was like, "Have you heard the Expendables?" And it was just like a cushy rumour. The Expendables, and like when it happened, man, it was like fucking hell. Now the first Expendables is directed by Stallone, the rest aren't. Out of the 3 movies, I think the second one is far better action and funny. I think Stallone did great in this at building a foundation. I think Stallone is clearly going to walk off into the sunset or be killed to be the story arc of number 4. You know, because he's quite out there and said he's not returning for the franchise. They might be smart. They might do another one after this, and then Stallone pops up as the last minute savior in the 6th. They might do something like that, but at this point in time, looking at it as bringing in Statham and looking at Statham going, right, you're the next generation action star. You've got Dolph Lundgren, obviously reunited him from Rocky 4. Jet Li's in there, so it's Peel. Eric Roberts returns from The Specialist, but best of the best. But I wasn't the best of the best fan growing up, so I don't see him as a major threat. I think Stone Cold Steve Austin's a great henchman. You've got, who else you got in there? Mickey Rourke, who has not returned all the way through any of them. But watching it, I mean, you've got like Terry Crews and Randy Coulthridge, who are just... Terry Crews meant to be Wesley Snipes. But sold on the simple fact that Schwarzenegger and Willis were in it, we do get a really funny scene of them in the church, and it's a passing of the thing. We don't really get what we should have got in the first one till the second one, till the airport scene, which is fucking brilliant. But like the film, it's cleverly disguised as a buddy cop film between Stallone and Statham, but then obviously other elements written off for like bit where he does with Jet Li and has the fight in the car and everyone has their little bit. And again though, as a director and writer, and it's Sylvester Stallone, it was great that all these people came together, and it's a fucking hell of a movie, you know what I mean? But like, it's sort of a real roller coaster, because the third one gets a lot of heat for not being brutal enough, but you could tell them a million ways to go. But like, looking at a franchise, don't think this Expendables should be looked like a franchise. So everyone should come in, meet the demise, just have the moments and just pass the torch on and stuff like that. I mean, not pass the torch too much on like the third one, but sticking with the first one, you know, it was like a dream for anyone who grew up in the 80s and 90s to see that just star lineup. And, you know, I kind of feel like it was bloody enough, it was R-rated enough, it was uncut on Blu-ray. But I think the second one has it more for what you were expecting with the first one. But like, credit to Stallone for writing, directing, and starring in it, and like, you know, like not just that, just like the ego, like of everyone getting involved, and just like, yeah, right, if anyone's going to do it, Stallone's going to do it. Now look at everyone trying to get cameos and multiverses and stuff like that. So yeah, Expendables is awesome. Expendables 2 will be the next Stallone and next Willis. Well, I'll get there with that, but. Yeah, as I say, really should have started Rocky, but you can't really watch Rocky 1 without watching Rocky 2, in my opinion. You've got to go straight to the next one. But as an actor, he's underrated. As a director, he's underrated. As a writer, he's underrated. You know what I mean? He's one of the most iconic film stars in the last 50 years, if not of all time. There's a lot of Hollywood greats being and gone, and they get lost through the generations. But again, what's meant about Stallone is he kind of like tries to pass the torch on, which is fucking awesome. Right, I need to find another film, and I need to fill in my list. So that's Animal Crackers and Expendables, and that leaves us with number 9 and number 10 to decide. Goodbye for now. So, back with the good, the bad, and the what the fucks. As the sun is in my light, I should have did daylight. Daylight. but I'm not doing Daylight. I'm doing Copland. So Copland is an interesting one because it came along in the mid to late 90s, wasn't it? But then just Stallone, De Niro, Ray Liotta and Harvey Keitel on the poster alone. It's like, what? First time director as well. Can you imagine trying to direct them? There's an infamous scene where who's going to go into the coffee shop. Like Robert Patrick's in there as well, but like, is Harvey Keitel going to go in? It's Robert De Niro, and it was like a whole like hoo-ha. But quite a good story. Stallone literally playing the underdog. Big and bulky. Everyone thought he was well out of shape at the time. He was doing it for the character. A local cop who can't get on the force, and a small town outside of the New York area claimed to be like the police, where everyone's just like cops and nothing really happens, and there's a local sheriff involved and stuff like that. And then one of the golden cops, played by Michael Rappaport, accidentally kills 2 people after drink driving. He thinks they've got a gun, he shoots them out. Big scene on a bridge, shut down the whole bridge for it. And then you know, they try to smuggle him out, but then it's like, is he really there? Is he really hiding up in the water tower? And Stallone tries to give justice and keep it low. Really good film. Doesn't get enough like credit. Completely disappeared. I just remember seeing it, like big box, 18 rated movie, and just that cast alone, like such shades of the Goodfellas artwork, you know. But like really ought to play his mate who's like off the rails kind of copper and turn a blind eye. And yeah, it's really good. If you've never seen it, check it out. I can't see anything. I can't see. I want to do Daylight. Should I do Daylight or should I do Demolition Man? I might watch Demolition Man tonight. I can't see anything. I literally can't see anything. So let's do Daylight. I am literally blind here, right? So Daylight is a spiritual sequel to Cliffhanger, and it's quite a big budget film. It's a very disaster movie at the time. You meet a lot of characters leading up to everyone getting in the tunnel at the same point, and then there's a robbery and high speed chase, and the dogs are just about to knock the camera. Hello, Hyra. There's a dog in the movie as well. And there's a massive crash, and Stallone is a former rescue drill sergeant kind of guy, just so happens to be now a New York taxi driver, and just so happens to be going into the tunnel, doesn't get into the tunnel, and it all breaks out. He becomes like the last resort, so it's kind of, it is pulling on the cliffhanger bit. Gets himself in a few fiascos. They rely heavily on a lot of CGI in this movie, and then you know, it's characters, you're like, oh, who's going to survive? And you know, there's a breakdown of personalities, and like the real what you got to do when you can't get out. And then there's like underwater caves and stuff, and obviously the bridge is like collapsed down. It's very intense. As I say, the artwork's stunning. The artwork was stunning. You know, just 2 people, Stallone, and the era of cosmic orange and stuff like Money Train and Drop Zone, movies like that at the time. To now just Stallone go, that's the front cover, Stallone, Daylight. It's like, really? So I'm glad to own the Blu-ray of that, because it's long gone. But it isn't a Cliffhanger sequel, but it's that kind of wanted it to be. It was very heavily advertised at the time. Very unplanned, but me and the guys have done the podcast for it. Hyra's pulling for some reason. I don't want her to knock the camera. There's a lot of people in there as well. The girl who's got the camera, is it Danielle Harris from Halloween? She's in there. There's the guy from Con Air who's in Hackers. There's loads of famous people you'll recognise in Small Bit Roads. Got the cord, got the power, baby. There's a lot going on. So if you haven't seen Daylight, worth checking out. And that is 10 Stallone films and someone empty in the bin. So yeah, I just thought I'd wrap this up, and then I can just drop, click, boom. Probably no outtakes, unless there's already one filmed, but for now I think I've done pretty well, so thanks for watching, goodbye for now.
Now who's smiling? Now who's smiling? Now who's smiling? Now who's smiling?
Look, dun dun dun, probably haven't picked the best angle for light, but it's an awesome front cover. I just remember, hang on, and that was it. Had an alternative cover with that on, but yeah, the best known action stop movie of the year, but yeah. It's not a very good angle at all. Change the angle. That better. That's a Laserdisc, motherfucker. That's a motherfucking Laserdisc. So yeah, Stallone, Cliffhanger. Brilliant front cover. That's all you need. Rather than just as black. I never had a very good front cover, even like the new one. Like, it's all black and him like looking Rocky-fied on the front cover. It's the same Rocky-fied, but yeah, that's all you need. Cliffhanger. Next outtake. So very quickly at the end of the Stallone rant, there's the daylight front cover. That is awesome. Check out the DVD. It's terrible. Gremlins 2 is playing in the background. Thanks for watching this. Hope you enjoyed. Goodbye for now.